Governments deny it. Militaries deny it. Even the mainstream media denies it. But they are here, and they've been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969, and now we're sharing that truth with you. Welcome to MUFON What's Up with your hosts, Katie Page, Christopher DePerno, and Katie Cook, exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up? It is a rainy Tuesday night here in the Rocky Mountains, and it's a little chilly, and I'm not quite ready for fall. I don't know about all of you, although I do love Halloween. It is my favorite time of year, so, I'm never going to complain about rain. Anyway, you're listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity, and curiosity starts with MUFON. Brought to you by KGRADB.com. I hope that you go to their webpage and subscribe. As always, we're endorsed by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, always asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? I am your host, Katie Page, the Colorado MUFON State Director and International Mars Team Administrator. I wanted to share with you guys at the top of the show a 4-minute little video highlighting the MUFON symposium that occurred here in Denver. So Amanda, if you'd like to run that little video, I'm happy to share this with all of you. UFOs in the Spotlight, MUFON 2022 International Symposium held at the Sheraton Denver Downtown Hotel, July 7th through the 10th. Here we have Dave McDonald, International Director, Debbie Ziegelmeyer, and Terry Lynn Keel. Here we have Sharon and Hannah. And there is Steve Hudgens hanging out with an alien. This was the Thursday FI training. Phoenix MUFON's Marianne Robb and Dave Rich talking to people about body language. There's Dr. Lynn Kitai. Attendee check-in with Becky and Ron. This symposium was one of our best attended symposiums. There we have Paul and Ron and others. This was the benefactor reception. This was a wonderful event. Mark D'Antonio. Again, there's Sharon and Terry and others. There's Sandy and Tom Reed. People enjoying their cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. The wonderful Jennifer Stein. Again, Executive Director and Marquetta. So many people in attendance having just a wonderful time. There's Sev Talk and Kathleen Martin, Dr. Len Kitai, Peter Robbins, Earl Grey, Anderson, and here we have the cocktail hour before the banquet on Friday night. Again, one of the most well-attended events of the symposium is that Friday night reception dinner. There's Stacy from Phoenix MUFON, Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and myself. I think we got a glimpse of Paul Hynek there. There is Jeremy Ray from Hangar 1. And this is the dinner banquet. The symposium was hosted by wonderful, talented Sev Talk. She did just an amazing job. The food was delicious. Some more Colorado MUFON volunteers. That's Rich Evans. And don't forget to pick up your MUFON merch. This was one of the speaker panels. Again, Paul Hynek and Michael Schratt and others. Debbie and Mark D'Antonio. Dr. Len Kitai. Peter Robbins, Marquetta and I, and Michael Schratt was busy signing books. Ron James, Tom Reed, and no, we are not alone. A lot of smiles. Thank you, Rich, and thank you, Deb, for putting together this wonderful video. We'll see you next year in Cincinnati. All right. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We have an amazing guest for you tonight, a actual real good friend of mine, Trey Hudson. He is really well known for investigating a high strangeness location, kind of known as the South Skinwalker Ranch. So I am looking forward to talking with him here in a little bit. First, I would like to bring on my co-host. We have the amazing, talented Katie Cook. Hi, Katie. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you? Jupiter says
good.
hi.
Oh, hi, Jupiter.
You got in my lap. Right when I started, she always wants to be part of the party. I'm so excited about tonight's show, Trey. It's going to be awesome. I have so many questions lined up. And thank you for sharing all those pictures from the symposium. I didn't get to make it, and so many lovely, familiar faces made me really sad that I wasn't there. So thanks for sharing that.
We really missed you and Chris and Trey for that matter. Maybe next year in Cincinnati, you guys can make it. I didn't put that together. Rich was our symposium photographer, and he put that together for us. And next week I could share a short clip from the Air Force Academy tour, which is pretty awesome. So for the next couple of weeks, I'll share some at the top of the show. So I hopefully next symposium you'll be there. Speaking of Chris, Jerry, and Jenna, hey guys, what are you up to?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What a wonderful thing that symposium is. Every year they have a symposium. They have some great speakers there, and they really enjoy it. And I'll tell you, it's something that everybody in the ufology field should go to, should see it, and I think they'll enjoy it a lot. And
Lori DiPerno.
I'm getting a call.
What? I agree, Chris.
Hello?
Not to be missed.
Hello, sir. This is Heavenly Pizza.
Heavenly Pizza. Can I help you?
Yes. Someone named Jerry ordered a large pizza to go. Could you please tell him that we can't substitute the tomato sauce with cow's blood?
Oh, no.
Cancel the order. Thank you.
Jerry.
He's been quiet all day, and I couldn't figure out. He wants to. Never mind.
He's a mess.
Oh,
He's a mess.
I'll tell you, ever since he's been off the sauce.
Maybe get him back on the sauce. I
gotta put him back on the sauce. Anyways, you cannot have pizza with cow's blood instead of tomato sauce. For God's sakes, okay.
Oh dear.
Oh my gosh. Hey, so Katie, what do you have to kick us off tonight? Oh my gosh, that's
well. I don't think I can top cow's blood on pizza. But I do have a funny, and I like the way you say pizza. It's like the way you say naza. Pizza. I got a funny little meme to kick us off as usual. I thought this was pretty cute. For those of you just listening, well, these aliens are, hang on, let me pull this up to where I can actually see it. I've got myself all messed up here. Hang on, give me a second. It says, we're not staying here. We're just not allowed to smoke on the ship. So there you go. Jerry wants cow's blood and these aliens just want a cigarette. Now
that's a good Colorado meme. Although
don't
I guess
get him started don't get him started. He'll be out trying to score some marijuana. I tell you, he's going crazy.
Stop. This is a child-friendly show, remember? Pop of the week. Let's talk about pop of the week. Okay. You know how normally I hold them up? Yeah, I ate these. I couldn't wait because they were so good. They're little mini Sasquatch feet. How cute are those? And she's put all these little crunchies, and I think that's rosemary that was in there, to look like Sasquatch has really been.
It looks like athlete's foot.
Hey,
like you have a wolf at the bottom.
Well, you know what? They don't taste like they have athlete's foot. They were
I know they look delicious.
Yummy. Well, they're so yummy. I don't have them here to hold up. So there you go. I laid them out, and then I was just like,
Are those nuts in there?
Yeah. Oh, yes, like nuts and rosemary.
Yum.
It's so cute. They're so good. And of course, white chocolate. So anyway, you can order these at paranormalpops.com. And you were talking earlier about MUFON merch. I found a couple t-shirts I love. They happen to be on the MUFON website in their merch store. And, we've all seen the posters and shirts that say, I want to believe. I like these because it says, I know.
Yeah.
So I love that because we know it's
Yeah.
real. So anyway, I thought those are really cool. And you can get those at the MUFON website in the merch section. So that's all I got. Chris, what you got?
Are you ready for the news?
No, we're
don't
never
know.
totally ready. But yes, we are.
Well, this is going to be a little bit of little nostalgic, little music and stuff like that. I may have to roll that intro for the first story.
Causing grief in human relations. It's a turf war on a global scale. I'd rather hear both sides of the tale. See, it's not about races, just places, faces. Where your blood comes from is where your space is. I've seen the bright get duller. I'm not gonna spend my life being a color.
Tell me you agree with me when I saw you kicking dirt in my eye. You're thinking about my baby. It don't matter if you're black or white. If you're black or white, you're up in my brother. It don't matter if you're black or white.
Okay.
I wonder if the redhead goes out with older guys. Anyways.
Why are you asking?
I'm just curious. Anyways, let's get on with the story. Aliens from Andromeda told U.S. Army personnel that humans are composed of 22 different ET races. Alex Collier, an alien contactee who claimed that for over 30 years he has been in contact with aliens from the constellation Andromeda. Their contact included multiple visits to alien spaceships and telepathic connections for decades. Many well-known UFO enthusiasts consider Alex to be credible, at least in the sense that he tries to convey as fully as possible the information received from his true Andromedans contactees, which is Venusus and Moron Ray. Moron Ray, what a name. Moron Ray. Oh, moron. Forget the Ray. Anyways, he said that for those Andromedans, who are the descendants of the ancient Lyrans, nobody can just be named Jones or Smith anymore. The Andromedans took him aboard their spaceship, including a large extraterrestrial ship, where he had been training for 3 months. The Andromedans gave him information about cosmic spirituality, life in the universe, and the galactic history of Earth. Collier described Earth being under the control of regressive extraterrestrial beings. Those aliens came to Earth from the star system known as Alpha Draconis. He said the humans are separated by 2 different physiological belief systems. One of them spreads love and free will, while the other one shows control and resource consumption. Collier says the ancient alien race known as the Founders are responsible for building planets, environments, and make them suitable for life. The Andromedans and the Pleiadians believe that this ancient alien race that's called the Patai, I don't know, it's some kind of dish. He even said that those aliens are capable of removing moons to alter the planet's positions from its sun to control the amount of radiation. Andromedans could reportedly create a solar system. Collier noted that the Andromedans are about 4,300 to 4,500 years old, ahead of us in U.S. technology or technology in Andromedan language. According to Collier, humans consist of 22 extraterrestrial races. Collier claims that there are about 135 billion people living in all over the planets in the 8 closest galaxies to us. He even said that when he visited one of those habitable planets, those people got scared of seeing an earthling because of our bad reputation. In the whole universe, only humans could make their own people slaves and kill them for their own benefits. I guess they never knew what the Anunnakis were. Collier said that all human life originated from the constellation Lyra. Sounds like an Italian quarter. He said that the aliens were from Andromeda, were humans in every way. They were 4 to 8 feet tall with white and blue skin. I haven't seen a human with blue skin yet. All right. He even talked about the missing children, the coming of the new world order, control of dark forces on the world politicians, the existence of reptilian aliens, the religions, and the history of the earth and our universe. Amanda, you got to roll that video. We got to see this guy.
Now, in 1985, your contacts with Visayas and Morny began to become more frequent. Please describe the nature of your contacts and the content of your discussions and the ways in which you communicate with them.
In 1985, it really started to, the information, they were physical. It evolved around the Greys, the Earth agenda, our spirituality, religions, Earth governments, Earth history, our genetic creations, the 22 different races that have actually colonized the Earth at one time or another, and who we have within us genetic racial memories of, within our DNA. They do, and it's not really a language. They're telepathic, and yes, they'll stand in circles when they're talking, and when they do talk, flashes of light where their third eye is, right here, different flashes of colors that we don't even have on our third density spectrum, just appear, and they're just boom, 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 flashing all this color, and it's like we would know a tyranny and an enslavement as far beyond anything we could even imagine. To put it just quite bluntly, we'll never be free again. We'll never be free again. We will be stuck until we're rescued by an outside force. We ourselves will not be able to break free. And hey, we're a race. It doesn't matter the color of our skin. We are a race. And we're being messed with in a big way. We're being manipulated in an incredibly audacious way. They're just mocking how stupid we are when we're really not stupid. But nobody will tell the truth. Nobody will come out and say, hey, none of this is right. We were never meant to live this way. And they have no right to come down here and mess with us the way they've done that. And the real strength in us, in our own permanent evolvement as a race, will come from us standing up, taking a stand and saying, you know what? No way. We're not going to do this. We're not going to destroy ourselves for your enjoyment so you can feed off of us. You have no right to manipulate our governments, to create wars. None of this was right.
So, there you go. What do you think? Are we made of 22 races?
Who knows? Do you want to go first, KDP?
I usually have a hard time with the big leaps like that. Like when you start talking about what ET's motives are, or how many races there are, or the agendas are. I would say no. I guess, in short, I don't think we're made up of 22 alien races, and it's hard to know who, what, where, when. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
it seems like a stretch
flavors
for
of
me.
ice cream.
The Baskin Robbins. Yeah, I don't know. Whenever people say I know 100% what's going on, I'm always kind of like, I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe the Blue Man Group are aliens. You were saying you've never seen a blue human, and the Blue Man Group popped into my head. I was like, I don't know. Maybe
I've never seen a blue. If they're walking around the place, okay, sooner or later you're gonna see some guy with a blue shade on. Sorry, but that's just the case. I don't know. Anyway,
well, Genghis Khan just made that comment. What about the Indian gods? They had blue skin. That was interesting.
That's true. And when I got into ufology, I was always looking for the blue ones. Like anytime I've had dreams or meditations, they always have blue skin. So there are probably an alien race with blue skin that have visited
Could
our
be.
planet for years, but are we part of that? I don't know. Who knows? But
Two
I'm with
things
you,
I'm looking
Katie. If
forward
somebody
in
says
life.
they know the answers, you have to be a little hesitant and leery on
Well,
that.
two things
Yeah.
I'm looking forward in life. One, meeting an alien with blue skin and an Hindu god. I haven't met either one yet. So, Genghis, if you know where one is, let me know. Me and Jerry will go find him. Anyways, let's get to the next story. Listen, Katie, if you had a heart attack over the first intro, you're going to love this. Amanda, play that second one.
Oh my.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul on fire. Got a whole lot of money that's ready to burn, so get those stakes up higher. There's 1,000 pretty women waiting out there. They're all living the devil may care, and I'm just a devil with love to spare. So viva Las Vegas, viva Las Vegas. How I wish that there were more than 24 hours in the day. Even if there were 40 more, I wouldn't sleep a minute away. Oh, there's blackjack and poker and the roulette wheel. A fortune won and lost on every deal. All you need is a strong heart and a nerve of steel. Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas!
Oh yeah.
Viva Las
It's the
Vegas.
anniversary
All
of his
right.
death today. Did you know that, Chris?
What?
Elvis
The
Presley.
king?
It's the anniversary of his death today. Yeah, he passed
Yeah,
away
I
on my
know he
sister's
died.
birthday. So happy birthday, sister. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
my sister's birthday. But yeah,
Rest in
today's
peace,
the
the
anniversary.
king.
Yeah, rest in
He's
peace.
the king.
And he and
Could
I
still
have the
be
same
alive.
birthday. Elvis
you
and I have
do?
the same birthday. Yeah, it's kind of
All
weird.
right. King and queen.
Are we done?
We're done.
Yeah, we're
No.
done. You
Are we
can go
doing a
ahead.
memorial to Elvis? Let me
Go
know.
ahead.
Okay. All
Go
right.
ahead.
Ex-U.S. Air Force serviceman claims tall white aliens visited Nevada casinos in human outfits in the 1950s. Former U.S. Air Force soldier named Charles Hall said that since the 1950s, the U.S. government has been into contact with aliens whom he referred as the tall whites. The ex-military man said the aliens love to relax on Earth and pretend to be humans. They often visit the bars and the casinos in Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. Charles Hall is known for his book series of Millennial Hospitality, or How to Be a Tall White and Make the Money on the Slots, in which he shared his experience with tall white aliens in the Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada. In the 1960s, the aliens liked to disguise themselves as humans and visited casinos such as the Stardust and Sunglasses, being accompanied by CIA agents. Hall explained that the U.S. military received technology from the aliens to build weapons, but they kept the contact a secret from citizens since people, in their opinion, were not emotionally ready for the truth. In 1964, when I was a weather observer at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, came from Hall, I witnessed interactions between the military and a group of mysterious tall white human-like extraterrestrials. Their craft can travel faster than the speed of light. No kidding. Hall said that the site where he had seen aliens interacting with the U.S. Army did not exist on the maps and no cameras were allowed there. He noted that you encounter the tall whites is such a shock, you're not sure if you're looking at a ghost or an angel or if you're dreaming. Hall described in detail that he had met 3 kinds of alien species. He had been attacked by the tall whites while being in the desert. They go from happy-go-lucky bars and casinos to attacking the guy. He must have been a jerk. They injured his neck so badly that they could have died from such wounds. The aliens were trying to observe him while he was fighting for his life. Hey, Jerry, look at the guy get that. Further, he had been hypnotized by the tall whites. They used a pencil-like device to kill or torture their prey, including humans. The device shoots rays that allow aliens to control humans. According to Hall, the aliens treated him as a lower-class person because they only interacted with high-ranking officials. He was addressed as a teacher's pet by extraterrestrials beings. Hall also claimed that the tall whites had come to Earth from the star system known as Arcturus, or arc something, which is about 100 light years from Earth. Although the aliens always kept the details secret, he managed to find out by reading their mental conversation through telepathy. Hall suggested that the tall whites used Earth as a station between their home and other destinations. According to American engineer Phil Schneider, he met with the man known as Valiant Thor, who reportedly was from Venus. And also, he had worked for the U.S. government in the 1950s. He said that Thor looked very human. That's why they get away with it. However, psychologically, he was very different from ordinary people. So I got a video of this guy, Hall. Amanda?
Credible researchers now say that as many as 60 different species of intelligent, superconscious beings have been interacting with humanity for millions of years.
Physically, they're humanoid. Their skin is as white as a piece of paper. Throughout much of their adult life, they're the same height that I am, 5'11", 6 feet tall. Their eyes are perhaps twice as large as ours. They're typically blue eyes with white pupils, although when they get older, especially the men, their eyes take on a pink shade. Their eyes stretch further around the sides of their head than human eyes do, and their ears and their nose are only about half the size of human ears and noses, and their ears lay back along the side of their head more than a human does. Their lips are not as prominent as humans, and they don't have teeth, they just have ridges, because they're plant eaters, they don't eat meat.
How can we know for sure exactly how many extraterrestrial races are visiting us or interacting with humanity? I mean, there are different sources disclosing some of that information. I found the CIA is John Lear, and he talks about over 60 races that are visiting the Earth.
On one night, I saw between 200 and 300 different tall white individuals. There were so many I couldn't count them, lined up along the mountains to the east of, up along where the ammunition bunker was. On the night that the tall white lady known as Pamela was supposed to finish her final exam to be head of the technology transfer team to go into Livermore. In amongst those 200 or 300 tall whites, and that's just an estimate because I couldn't, it was a crowd of people and I couldn't count them all. There were also American Air Force personnel, nobody below the rank of colonel. There was like a 4-star general, a 3-star general. There were several of them. There were also several American government people in civilian clothing over there.
So
speechless.
What do you think? Are they visiting the casinos? Are they hitting the slots? Are they
Fremont Street?
Are they hitting the blackjack table?
If you've been to Fremont Street, the answer is yes. I've seen them.
And stuff. What do you think, girls?
I can't hear Katie.
Katie, you're muted.
Yep, you're muted.
There
we go.
Well,
okay.
Can you hear me again now?
We can hear you.
My dog was going crazy in the background. He did not like that story one little bit and just decided to go nuts. So I had to mute myself. You know, it's Vegas. A lot of weird stuff happens there. I don't know what to think of this one, guys. I really don't.
Well,
here we go again with numbers, and I'm just like,
yeah,
I don't know.
up to
I
60
don't know.
now.
But again, if this guy's telling the truth, I know I say this every week, but like how bad would it be if this really happened to you and you're trying to tell people and everyone's laughing at you? I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. You know?
Well, I can tell you that I've never seen a 4-star general or a general get off his fat ass to do anything. So I can tell you, and I've been around a lot of them. That's what they got colonels and lieutenant colonels and all those other lieutenants and everything to do. They don't get involved. They sit and they go, okay, I got to be insulated. So that part of the story, I'm not too sure about. But anyways, what can I tell you?
Chris said it. We didn't. Chris said it.
We didn't. Nope, we're innocent. And I'm asking Trey about that. He knows some of these guys.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's see. We're 30 minutes in. Do we have time for a little case of the week?
Yeah.
Should we do that? Short. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Yeah, let's do case of the week. It's a pretty short one because we have Trey here. I know he's had encounters with these orbs. So I searched orbs in CMS, the case management system for MUFON, and I came up with case number 114383. It's a category 1 case. It occurred March 23rd, 2021, 8:28 p.m. out of Camas, Washington. The case was closed as an unknown other. Basically, it was a woman and her daughter walking with their dog at night. By the way, we get a lot of cases of people out walking their dogs. They see a lot of things in the sky. I initially saw 3 round lights that seemed to be surrounded by at least 2 helicopters. The sounds, lights, and the helicopters were recognizable. One disappeared behind the tree cover and the other 2 stopped and stayed in the same position high above some homes and treed areas. Because they stopped moving and were unusual in shape and color, I decided to start filming them with my phone camera. They are circular and seem to pulsate. Towards the end of the video, the thing on the right starts to flicker and blink out a little bit. So I chopped up the video because she did catch like over 4 minutes of it. So when you see it, I'm the one who kind of chopped it just for time's sake for the show. But Amanda, if you want to roll the case of the week video, please.
All these cars babe. They're like pulsating. Come here and look at it in the camera, Kylie. Come here. Hey, come here. Look, they're like pulsating. Who's that a bug? Oh, that's, I think, the light. Do you hear is that the helicopter? Do you hear it? They're not moving. What are they? The one on the right is like blinking out. Do you see it? What is that? I don't know what it's doing. Where's the one that went to the right?
To see it and listen if I can compare a helicopter.
What do you guys think?
I don't know. That kind of feels. Remind me again. Was she seeing it with her naked eye or just through the camera?
Her naked eye, her and her daughter, and they saw a third one that moved off. So they were moving. The
Okay.
third one moved off, and those 2 stopped. But they did hear helicopters too.
I'm more inclined to Chinese lanterns.
But they seem so like they're just staying right there.
Yeah, they're not moving.
Well, it all depends on what the wind speed is up there and what direction the wind is going. It seemed like, to me, and I agree with American Road Warrior, my first guess would be Chinese lanterns, depending on which the direction of the wind and the wind speed. If the wind was going away from them, the wind was to
They
their
could
back.
have just, they could have been
just gone
moving
and
off.
then slowly go off. But
Boy, they
I think
stay
it needs
really in sync with each other, like headlights. You know that. I don't know. This
Yeah,
one
could
feels a
be.
little funny.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at that and look at the wind speed and stuff. But anyway.
I think we got a Scooby-Doo mystery.
I think this is a good time to bring in Trey. What do you guys say?
Yeah, bring him in.
All right, let's bring in Trey. So Trey is the current director of the Anomalous Studies and Observation Group. He's been investigating a high strangeness location with this team and is the author of the Meadow Project, Explorations into the South Skinwalker Ranch. He majored in psychology at the University of West Georgia with a minor in anthropology. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army Reserves and branched into military intelligence. In 1989, Trey entered federal government service as a security specialist. He has received training and experience in various specialties, some of which include intelligence analysts, anti-terrorism, counterintelligence, emergency management, physical security, personal security, and many others. In 2008, between 2008 and 2009, Trey served a tour in Afghanistan as an operations and anti-terrorism officer. Trey is also an EMS first responder, combat lifesaver, rescue scuba diver, certified military emergency management specialist, certified DoD security professional, and extra-class amateur radio operator. He is married, lives in the southern USA, and has 2 adult daughters. Welcome to the show, Trey.
Hey, happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Hello, hello.
Hello. I feel super unaccomplished now.
You know what? I chopped that down a lot. So that's just the tip of the iceberg right there with Trey.
It makes me sound a lot more interesting than I am. You can ask Katie. I'm a rather boring person.
That's not true at all. No, I've tried many times. Like, this is what somebody you want to like, here, Trey, have another beer around the campfire because you want to get all this intelligence information out of him. But he doesn't go for it. I can never get him to open about what he's not supposed to open up about. I guess for me, I would like to start you off, Trey, with, having the background that you do. How did you move into and what brought you around to investigating the high strangeness, the paranormal, UFOs, and all of that good stuff? Where did you start with that? What year did that happen for you, and how?
That's a great question. I'm a child of the 70s, and
awesome.
Groovy. I'm wearing bell bottoms right now. No, seriously, is in the 70s there was just some really, really neat television shows, films, and things that started to kind of look at the paranormal, ufology, and some of this stuff in a more serious way. And you probably remember a fantastic television series called In Search Of with the legendary Leonard Nimoy. Yeah. So, I was like a little maladaptive sponge, sitting there in front of the television, soaking all of this in. And CBS, I believe it was, had a television show also called Project UFO, which was a highly modified version of the Blue Book Files. And it was a, serialized television show that had, cases every week and all. So I'm watching this stuff and I'm just totally intrigued by it. And my father, rest his soul, was also interested in this thing. And he traveled throughout the United States as a contractor. And I remember he bought a book because he was listening to the wonderful Brad Steiger. And he bought this book after listening to Brad Steiger on a radio show. And of course, when he got done with the book, I picked it up. And once again, that little strange, sponge sucking up all things esoteric, I absorbed all this stuff. So I always had a kind of natural interest in it. Of course, you had Bigfoot, shows and things out there too. So it was a smorgasbord of high strangeness for a young guy my age. And so, moving on into, young adulthood, I, went to college, studied under people like Bill Roll, famous parapsychologist at the University of West Georgia. So, this natural progression of interest in this, kept going on. Then adulting got in the way, it always does. And I had to kind of put this stuff on the back burner. And in the mid 2000s, my life kind of calmed down. My career, was more or less established. So I stuck my big toe into the tepid waters of high strangeness once again, and joined a local paranormal group. And I started finding, as I was researching things and started stepping outside of the box, the paranormal box, that there's a lot of weird stuff going on, high strangeness. And, depending on what optics you're looking at things through, you tend to conceptualize, the phenomena. So I've decided to step back and just look at things as they happen, look at the data. And my team and I have, run across a area of just really high strangeness. And, I make the bold titling of Skinwalker Ranch of the South. It has pretty much everything going on here that you read about and hear about out at the legendary Utah site. And so really, as you can see right here, that's my MUFON FI ID. I'm also, a field investigator for MUFON, but I'm really, I'm really more of a high strangeness researcher now because I just find it hard to label and box up these different phenomena into one particular genre. So that's kind of what I'm doing now and the way I try to look at things.
Well, yeah, we love that. We find it hard to box
Yeah.
it in too. It all seems to
Right.
be connected, and I know we'll talk a lot about that. And your book, The Meadows Project, you actually have a foreword by our dear friend Angelia
Yeah.
Shear, who's no longer with us. And I would just love to take a moment at the top here, just to get your thoughts on why she was so wonderful in the field of ufology. She did a lot for us.
She did.
Well, she had an open mind. She looked at the world. And I was talking about being like a sponge. Well, she really was. She really was a sponge. And as soon as she and I started conversing, and I'm trying to remember exactly how we even, linked up. But she and I would talk about things like the Monroe Institute and remote viewing and ufology and high strangeness. And she was reading some of the first chapters of the Meadow Project when I started writing it, which really was an experiment of compiling my field notes into some sort of digestible form. And, after discussing it with her, reading her book, I said, I would be honored, if you would write the foreword to this book. And she says, of course I would. You're, one of the folks out there that actually goes out in the wilderness, goes out into the the stuff and investigates. You put yourself out there, you put your team out there, sometime potentially at risk, at personal risk, and do the actual boots on the ground research and investigating. And I think she respected that. And I had the greatest respect for her. And as recently as last weekend, a mutual friend of ours, we were talking about, just how much we missed her, and what great fun it would be to share, our latest discoveries with her, and how excited she would be.
I have a quick follow-up. I know Chris has a question, but I just wanted to tell you that in preparation to getting to talk to you, I was like, I'm going to get your book on audiobook, because I spend so much time in the car that I've been really digesting books in audiobook form, and I love that. And I was going to see a very good friend who I know through Angelia, and Angelia's daughter had been on my mind nonstop for a few days. And so she was just kind of around. She was just in my heart and in my mind. And I put your book in, and it says foreword by Angelia Shear. And I was like, well, of course it is. I just felt like she literally was in the car for me a minute going, I'm still around. And so I just had to share that. It was a beautiful moment. I was like, yes, perfect.
Wow. That's awesome. Angie was a great friend of mine. We talked almost every week, and we would trade ideas and things. And there's just not enough good words in the world to say about Angelia Shear.
That is so true.
Just an amazing person. First, Trey, I want to thank you for your service. You're a lieutenant in the U.S. Army. Thank you for your service in that. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because being a military man with a military background, what made you start believing in all this? I mean, what was the first thing to say, hey, wait a minute, there's something to this high strangeness?
A great point. And, I actually, had somebody recently, talking about how I investigate, the Meadow Project and all that, say, well, you're not a scientist. No, I'm not a scientist. I never claimed. I'm an intelligence guy. That's how I was trained. So, I start looking at, signatures, indicators, data, facts, occurrences, instances, links, coincidences, happenstance, things like that. And I start painting this mosaic. And when you start overlaying all of these different bits of data, I'm not going to say evidence, I'm not going to say proof, I'm going to say data. You start laying these things on top of one another, something actually bubbles up to the surface. And when you look at that, you would have to be silly to think that something isn't going on. And it's a good, interesting question you asked that. A really good friend of mine, a retired lieutenant colonel, came over to my office at work one day, and he said, Trey, I want to speak to you about something. And let's go outside. I don't want to talk about it in your building. And I'm not going to go into what I do professionally, but usually when people come to me and don't want to speak about something in the building, it's not good. And so I was expecting something really, unsavory. And he said, what do you think about these DOD videos that are coming out?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, Colonel so-and-so, think about this. You take individuals that are most likely trained and are degreed in aeronautical engineering. naval aviators. You put them in one of the most advanced airframes we have, F-18 Hornets, equipped with the most advanced sensor arrays, FLIR, radar, infrared, visual, etc. And they see something that they cannot explain, flying in non-ballistic patterns, transmediums, etc. What do you think? And he just kind of looked, because he's an engineer by trade, and he says, they're real, aren't they? And I just smiled and I said, I've always known that, kind of like the T-shirt you talked about. Not only do I want to believe, I know. Yeah. So, I think when you're faced with that kind of evidence or data, I think the conclusion is plain as the nose on your face.
Well, Trey, first of all, when you said how you go about looking at the data, I think some of the best field investigators, some of the best investigators in ufology field or high strangeness are people who are not scientists. Right. Because like myself, I was a skeptic. I didn't believe in any of this hooey at all. And I wanted to debunk it. And as I started to look into this, I started saying, whoa, I can't debunk this. This is real. I mean, I actually started looking at some cases that were absolutely unexplained. But I honestly believe that people like yourself make great investigators into this because they just look at the data. They don't try to analyze all the stuff until after they have the facts. That old LAPD thing, just the facts, ma'am. And that's how I think you should look at ufology and stuff, is by that way.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, my background is, obviously intelligence and security and things like that. But my formal schooling is from the University of West Georgia, which is one of the few universities who has a psychology department that has a humanistic and transpersonal focus. So that being said, I come from a psychological perspective. I come from a very experiential background. I believe in the human experience. So you take empirical and experiential, and you put the two together, and you have, the happenings, the events, the being, the experiencing this as being human. And when you can have an experiential event that are backed up by witnesses, experiences, feelings, and then you also have some sort of empirical data, be it, radiation spikes, video, audio, EMF, things like that. That just makes for an extremely compelling case. So, I try to keep a foot in both worlds. And, Katie's been out with me when I research, and I'm big on the experience, but I also, lug a whole bunch of equipment out there in the field to try to check both of those boxes. So I have a good feeling and a good idea of maybe what's going on.
Yeah. So I had the honor and privilege of investigating with his team. I flew out there twice now, and I hope to come out in a few months here soon to do this for a third time. But I was super impressed even before I left the ground here in Colorado to go down south there. Trey and his team, they have objectives, they have goals, they have basically like marching orders, right? And safety is first. Everybody's on the radio. The high quality team members. I mean, you have, I believe, a firefighter, PhDs. Very, very gifted, intelligent people that are out there, and everybody has a role. Safety is always first. You never go out alone anywhere. Somebody's always at base camp, and both times that I went out, Trey, we experienced things, and then you debrief. And the thing that impressed me the most, so the first time I went out, the team and I went across from where the Meadows is, and there's another field called the Field of Dreams, and we had witnessed an anomalous light, and some tappy, or I think somebody got pushed in their chair or something. But the second time, Jessica did. The second time we went out there, it was all about trying to recreate and debunk it. So, Trey's team isn't quick to go, oh, yes, it was something out of this world of paranormal. I mean, we were on the radio having cars go, people with headlamps. We were trying everything we could to figure out what it was we saw. So that impresses me. And if you could talk a little bit about how you go about coming up with your next experiment and what the objectives are, that would be great for our listeners to hear.
Yeah. We actually, I build experimental packets and take out there. And coming from a background as a paranormal, investigator or researcher, I look a lot towards some of the great minds in parapsychology. So I build experimental packages to take out there. One that we did is I was trying to measure time dilation. Now, of course, it's a very crude method because I can't lug multi-100-pound atomic clocks on my back, out to this area. And Katie can tell you it's quite remote. We'll take stopwatches. We'll have a control watch and a experimental watch to see if there's a time difference, a time dilation or a time contraction. Another thing we do is I have an experiment I'm taking out there next time where I have a grid with magnetic letters in a sealed box that's locked that'll be left out in the meadow. And we'll see if the letters are rearranged. And of course, this will be surveilled by trail cams to make sure nobody's messing with it. One of the last times we also took a pyramid-shaped box and took it out there and left it overnight. And much to our chagrin, the box was not disturbed, but one item was removed from the box. Mm-hmm. So, these are the kind of experiments we do. We try to, capture the data in as much as we can. And most of all, have fun, enjoy each other's company in this really unique place with these unique experiences.
Well, we've got I would say about 5 minutes until break. One thing, I think you can answer this in just a few minutes. I would personally not do what you do alone. I would always want to have a group with me for multiple reasons. I do know a couple investigators that really enjoy going and sitting all by themselves in the woods all night long looking for this stuff. I'm just not sure I could do that. But can you just speak to that a little bit of, what your approach is? Is there a benefit to going alone, or is that just always a bad idea? And why?
That is a bad idea. And I'll tell you why. We have had some experiences. We had one team member that we used to send. We never went out alone, but we would have certain, small operational objectives that a person would do alone. Like one person would move across the top of a ridge and we did that and actually had a team member that experienced some pretty significant missing time. Mm-hmm. And he also had unexplained GPS tracks on his GPS receiver when he got back to areas that he didn't go to, track lines that he couldn't have walked. The terrain is too rugged. And this is going to sound crazy, but this was witnessed by several people, is while they were viewing him through their FLIR, through their thermal scopes, is they saw him turn into a ball of energy and move, several hundred meters in a matter of seconds, and then reappear, remanifest back as a man-shaped heat signature. So, fire up the mystery machine there, Scooby. That's a clue that you might not want to go by yourself.
Is this the one that went across the river too? They went across the water too, and their clothes weren't wet. And there's no way of crossing this river basically without getting wet. There's no way, because you guys showed me where that happened.
Right. Yeah.
So the fact that he had that missing time, all the things Trey just said, and he wasn't wet. How did he? Because it tracked him across the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my mind goes crazy. I'm like, okay, was there some sort of like portal that he went through, or is there some sort of being that was like, you're coming with me for a little while and then I'm going to put you back? I mean,
You said the P word, and hopefully we'll get to talk about that in a little bit later.
Yeah, we definitely will. Yeah, we're still a few minutes to break. So, okay, we'll just tantalize me with this. We can talk more on the other side, but just have you ever been really scared on one of your own investigations?
Scared, probably not. Unnerved, yes. I've been maybe just a wee bit apprehensive. The cool thing about our team is, as Katie alluded to, they're from, law enforcement backgrounds, military, special operations, intelligence, emergency medicine, things like that. So, these are folks with backgrounds dealing with high pressure situations where, you have a clear, line of command and control. You know what the objectives are. You know what you're supposed to do before you even step foot in the field. So their training and their instincts just kick in, and we don't have time to be scared. We don't have time to, really worry too much about it. Then when we get back to base camp, it's like, whoa, that was kind of crazy. I'm glad we kept our wits about us, but never scared. No, not actually scared.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
be, just saying. That's why you do it and I don't.
Trey, you guys go armed out there?
Yeah, we do.
So you take Mr. Smith and Mr. Weston with you, and
Mr. Glock, Mr.
Mr. Glock,
Mr. Colt, all those fine gentlemen. Yeah,
I would go out there without a howitzer.
Yeah, the reason for that is the area, and I'm going to call it the Blackwater Nature Preserve, which is not the real name. It has a history of very weird. There was literally a murder there last Sunday.
Oh,
so I'm really more concerned about the two-legged, flesh and blood entities walking around that can do you great harm, and you also have four-legged critters that could do that. So yeah, we do go armed. It's perfectly legal in the area where we're at, and our teams, have experience with firearms and those kind of things.
Oh man, you shouldn't have told me that, Trey. Now I'm not so sure a murder just happened.
I think that's great. The more murders, the better.
Yeah.
No, Amanda wanted me to ask, has anybody on the team, or have you ever had to let anybody go that's been too scared to go out there and, investigate?
And we have 1 minute to break.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing is if you make it to be invited to be a member of the Anomalous Studies and Observation Group, you've already been vetted, and we know you're not the kind that will get scared and break and run. So,
Good to know. Good to know.
Yep.
Yeah. And just real quick, do you have a website too, Trey, you want to promote?
I don't. Quite frankly, I don't have time for that. But I do. I am on Facebook, Trey Hudson -author. That's kind of where I hang out. So.
Well, we can talk. I can help you with that. I can help you get a website up and running.
Okay.
I'll help you with that. But okay, so more on the other side of the break. Thank you everybody for being here, and hang in there. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletter, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
Hi, I'm Austin Butler from Baz Luhrmann's new film, Elvis.
Tomorrow, all of America will be talking about Elvis Presley.
As a blood donor himself, Elvis shared the gift of life with patients in need and asked others to do the same. We're encouraging you to give blood this summer. Please visit redcrossblood.org/Elvis movie today to learn more.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
There was Elvis again. And Katie just said that he liked the paranormal. I didn't know that about Elvis.
Oh yeah, he had like a whole library full of wacky books, and there's that legend that when he was born, there was a blue light shining down on his house, and
really, so he was an ET.
Wasn't his house haunted?
I don't know about that. Oh, you mean Graceland?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I
about
know
that.
Loretta Lynn's place was haunted.
It is. I've talked to her about that. Ooh, we'll have to bring that up.
Ooh, we're gonna get Loretta Lynn on the show. Katie Cook has some pull. So Trey, I kind of wanted to get into the portals. It seems to be coming up a lot in our last few shows. The magnetic anomalies, number one. Have you experienced that? That's question number one. And number two, let's talk about what you think about portals.
Okay. Magnetic anomalies. We haven't experienced any. We've taken, magnetic compasses out there looking for any, variations of the geomagnetic field, things like that. And that's one of the unique things about our site is we're not seeing any anomalies geomagnetically, and not seeing any anomalies electromagnetic fields, which was kind of strange. But we are seeing radiation spikes, which is intriguing. You mentioned, the portal, the P word, and I'm just going to use the term portal because it's a convenient label that people kind of understand. Back several years ago, while we were investigating the meadow on February of 2017, one of our team members saw what he describes as a cube or a box, in the meadow on the FLIR, not visible with the naked eye. It was at night. It had a temperature variant that was different than the background. It was colder than its surroundings. And by the time he started recording it on his FLIR unit, you don't run these things in the record mode all the time because it'll run your battery down. It had started to dissipate. So we called all of our field teams back to this location, and we're discussing how to proceed. And we vectored several of our team members into the remnant of where this box or cube was. And much to our chagrin, they disappeared off a FLIR. It was so remarkable that the operator of the equipment actually said, "Did they just disappear?" Mm-hmm. And we've tried to recreate it. As recently as this year, we actually had teams out in the field during the daytime, which has a much the background temperature and the temperature of the human body are much closer. We couldn't replicate it. We could not hide from the FLIR during that time of year with no vegetation, in the surroundings. So, I
was there when you did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys, which is always really impressive to me. And now, is that where you caught the two figures observing the box? I think you have a photo of that.
Yeah, I do.
The same thing?
Right. If you remember where I was set up filming the recreation, to my right, there was a small copse of trees, just a small clump of trees. And that's where those two heat signatures or entities were observing us, which is really strange because earlier in that evening, we have on FLIR footage of, and this is where it gets kind of weird. It's a man-sized heat signature that did not correspond with any of our team members. As I, talked earlier and y'all mentioned, is everybody has radios. Everybody, we know where all the teams are. Everybody has a mission and a task to accomplish. Nobody moves from their location without authorization from the tactical leader of that operation in the field. So we had heat signatures that did not correspond with our team members. The weird thing is this heat signature, which is maybe about 6 foot tall, 24 inches wide, 2 meters tall, 1.5 meters wide, is it's tall and then it shrinks down to a few meters, then gets tall again, and then shrinks, then gets tall, and then splits into two heat signatures.
Oh, wow.
So that was the same night that we had those two heat signatures watching us from the copse of trees, which actually Kristen, she was the one that actually took this image, and she is heard in the video saying, "Who or what are those?" Wow. So it was a very strange evening, to be sure.
It's so cool to know that that's in that clump of trees, because now I can picture where that is.
Right.
Because it's kind of like those meadows and then like these clumps of trees, or and then meadow, and then some trees in the meadow. Wow. Yeah, that's impressive.
Trey, I wanted to ask you, we were talking about portals and missing time, and have you heard the new thing that they're starting to study called suspended time? And if you have you had any occurrence of suspended time? Pilots are experiencing that.
I'm not familiar with the concept of the term, but if you'll kind of describe it to me, I can perhaps elaborate.
Well, one of the pilots with the Nimitz thing, they released it, was saying that he was conscious and he thought he was involved with the object for only like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually recorded him involved with the object for about a half an hour.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
But he was conscious through the whole thing. He didn't have any missing time, but somehow time suspended around him. It became suspended time. And there's something that new is now happening where people are conscious of certain things, but the time is suspended.
Right. Yeah. I'd never heard of that term, but that's actually what our experiment was trying to determine is time dilation or time expansion.
Right.
Is time contracted or is it expanded in a relativistic, sense? And, we've had timepieces, electronic timepieces, not work, not keep time as though they should. And as archaic as this sounds, that's a wind-up Swiss wristwatch. There's no electronics in that. And so our team, a lot of us now wear mechanical watches because of that phenomena. Our good friend Bob Wilson had a event similar to that, not at this location, but we were researching something in North Florida where during the night he would either lose or gain time as according to his quartz watch. And what was interesting is I was camped on one side of him and another associate was camped on the other side. And our watches were perfectly synchronized, not only with each other, but with the actual time. But Bob's watch was off. And it's really weird because Bob is the one that had the missing time heading out to the meadow one evening. He was also the one that had the ball of light thing. And he was also the one that had the weird GPS track. And there was another event where he was at base camp and we had a craft, I'm just going to use that term because it was some sort of thing of locomotion move past our camp in the middle of the night down a nature preserve road, completely blacked out, no lights. You could hear something moving, something massive moving. You can't drive a vehicle, in this forest at night without, generation 3, night vision. And to make things weird is his Geiger counter had a spike of 0.66 microsieverts per hour. It actually spiked up when this thing went by. So, time is fluid, and it's all, a lot of it's based on your perception of it. So that's one of the things that we're looking into, but we haven't found experimentally, concrete evidence of that yet, but we're going to continue looking. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. You'll get it. Wow, this is firing up a lot of questions in my mind. Of course, Angelia always talked about human perception. That was her big thing that she really wanted to preach to all of us investigators. So something you just said made me think, so obviously you're investigating the meadows. Location does obviously seem to be very important to your work, but we do know that certain people are more likely to have paranormal activity.
Oh, yeah.
And they are obviously drawn to being on your team. And I have to just kind of wonder if it's a mixture of location, but also you get certain people together and they are twice as likely to have something happen because they're drawn into this because their life has been paranormal. So can you just kind of like weigh that out for me?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Believe it or not, many of our team members are trained in remote viewing, the military style of coordinate remote viewing. So, imagine a radio signal, if you will, Katie talked about me being a amateur radio operator. So I'm looking for a signal. If my radio is not attuned to the proper frequency, I'm not going to get that signal. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's around me. I'm just not receiving it. But if I can tune myself to the right frequency through the right training, through the right circumstance, perhaps even through the right genetics, now I'm receiving that signal. Now, I can receive that signal sitting here in my office, or I can receive that signal going outside. Heck, I can even receive that signal down the road in the next town, but the signal is still there. So yeah, that's an excellent point. People that are tuned in, to this kind of phenomena, definitely, I don't know if they create the phenomena, but they're certainly more aware of it.
Well, can I just follow up really quickly? Do you get into any kind of meditative space before you do investigations?
Yes, being here in the South, we have a meditative, process we use. It usually comes in a quart bottle. You buy it from the guy back down in the holler.
That's my kind of meditation.
That sounds good.
We sit around the fire drinking that white lightning.
I'm in. I was kidding about being scared. I'm actually so not scared. I totally want to.
So yeah, it's we do. I'm sure you're familiar with the CE5 protocol. There are people that love it. There are people that hate it. Wherever you are on the fence, I think it's an interesting tool in the toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
And we've used it and had just a really bizarre, happening with that. And it was not what you would expect at all. And so, yeah, we do sometimes use that, and especially when we're doing Skywatch, we try to get ourselves attuned to, the environment. Not only does it, perhaps, tune your receiver to the right frequency, it also makes you a little bit more at one with the environment. So you're more apt to pick up any anomalies.
Yeah.
There's so many things to talk about. We still got to get into the disembodied voices out there, but I wanted for a minute, you had mentioned our good friend, Bob Wilson, Grumpy Bob. He's such an awesome, cool dude. I love him. But he usually, or at least lately, he kind of holds camp. He stays,
right,
and keeps track of the teams as they go out. But almost every time something happens at base camp, and there's been, you can talk about this, cars that alarms go off and lock and unlock. Yeah. And can you kind of touch on what happens at base camp with Bob?
It's we call him Base Camp Bob.
Base Camp Bob.
Bob's like a freaky magnet. I don't know what it is about him.
It's true.
It is. He is like the most bizarre things happen to him. So you look at it. And you hear Bob's very colorful and interesting history, going back to, the cowboy days, in the 1800s. No, I'm kidding. Bob's not quite that old. Yeah, he's probably going to skin me next time I see him here in a few weeks. But he just happens to be the person that these experiences happen to. And so, I've got a few tricks up my sleeve. I'm going to try to talk him into hypnotic regression. I think that has value. Yes. I've got some other tools up my sleeve, in my Felix's bag of tricks that I can pull out that, would perhaps corroborate some of this stuff. And my gut tells me, and this is a gut feeling, that many members of our team have had experiences that we don't recall, and you've heard of screen memories. I've had bizarre, strange things happen in that area, actually several hundred meters away from the field of our dreams, where we had some of those anomalous phenomena happen to us. Mm-hmm. And my gut tells me that what I recall was not the whole story. And I believe that's happened with several of our team members. So that's something that I'm hoping to move into in the future and, maybe, move, change a paradigm just a little bit with, some revelations from that perspective.
Yeah.
I was interested when you were talking about remote viewing, Trey. Mm-hmm. How did you get your team trained in remote viewing, and has there been any contact? Monroe talks about different consciousness with remote viewing, that you can actually set up a communication. Mm-hmm. And there's some very frightening things with remote viewing too. The U.S. Army and the Russians were trying to see if they could assassinate people with it and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And to hear you talk about, hey, yeah, we get into this. It's sort of like a bittersweet. It could be used for good, but it could be used for bad too. What is your take on the remote viewing? Has there been any kind of telepathic message or anything that's been seen and stuff?
Yes, absolutely. We had gone out to the meadow one night, and most of our team, like I said, are trained remote viewers, so we're used to getting into that state. Now not using the hemisync like the Monroe, but more coordinate remote viewing from the military's perspective. So we went out there and we projected our intent. Got in the stage of receivership, and nothing happened. Nothing. Nothing out of the ordinary at all. And we're doggone it. We were skunked. But we sat around and enjoyed each other's company, which is, one of the most wonderful things about my team when we go out. We always, just thoroughly enjoy each other's company. So we came back to camp and, sat around and talked a little bit. And, all of us eventually retired for the evening. And the next morning, one of my team members came up to me. His name is Tony. And give a little bit of background about Tony. He's a U.S. Air Force Academy graduate, degree in engineering, did some time in the Air Force Special Operations, and now is a absolutely top person in his field, consults all over the world. And he said, Trey, he goes, I've got to tell you what happened to me last night when we came back from the meadow. He goes, I was asleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night about 04:30. And I had two words just etched into my mind, and the words were Knox Magby. And he said, I fell back asleep at 06:30. I woke up again, and those two words were there again, Knox Magby. And those, of course, are phonetic spellings. Does that mean anything to you? And I'm like, it doesn't mean anything to me, but I'll look into it. So I started researching, and I found out that the word Nox, N-O-X, is the Roman word for the goddess of the night that was co-opted from the Greek Nyx. So Nox is the Roman goddess of night. Magby was a bit more perplexing. And I found a word in the Old English poem Beowulf, and the word is Magba. It's Old English, and it means kindred or children. So if you know history of the British Isles, as the Romans left the British Isles and the Old English language started to be formed, that it's reasonable that Nox and Magba would be contemporaneous, that an Old English speaker would be familiar with the Roman gods and goddesses because the Romans had just left Britain. So you put those together and it means children of the night, or children of the night goddess. So you're thinking about it. Okay, so what do we have that comes to people at night that are small like children, have large bulbous heads, and stand around your bed?
Oh,
the Greys.
I'll give you, Whitley Strieber has a picture of it on the front of his book, Communion.
Yeah.
So, that was the result of our CE5, is he actually, received this, if you look at it that way, was it coincidence?
It's a good way to look at it.
Is he received some sort of message, impression, whatever you want to call it, of children of the night goddess or children of the night. So was our CE5 protocol session that night a success? Yeah, perhaps not in a conventional sense, but I would say so.
Did you have any kind of experience after that? Did anybody have a sighting or anything after that?
No, but that's where the hopefully the hypnotic regression will come into play.
And when you were saying Knox, made me think of Knoxville, Tennessee. A lot of activity all around there as well. Maybe no coincidence there. So, okay, well, you kind of bringing up the alien thing. Can we talk about potential UFO tie-in with cryptids? And, I think they can definitely be connected. What's been your experience?
Sure, I think so. I think, when we look at these phenomena, imagine a diamond with multiple facets, and you have the cryptology facet, you have the ufology facet, you have the Fortean facet, and then you also have the paranormal facets. They're all facets of the same diamond. And, as I talk to people, and, I'm a high strangeness researcher, so I'm kind of hated by the ufologists. I'm hated by the Bigfoot guys. I'm hated by the paranormal guys because I don't really fit in a box. But so, I started thinking about this and getting in the Wayback Machine, with Mr. Peabody and, going in the Wayback Machine. And I started doing a little research, and I started coming across some stuff. And this is a really cool little reproduction of a book called The Aliens in 1970. You can see it right here. And interesting enough, it talks about different types of, aliens. And what's interesting is you talk about aliens, they have this.
Ah, there it is.
Okay.
The cover of the MUFON Journal this month.
So now we go back to my book that I referenced earlier, The Gods of Aquarius. It talks about different types of archetypes and aliens. And guess what's in the book?
Bum, bum, bum.
Mm-hmm.
So, now that some of us are starting to, tie in ufology and, cryptid and paranormal, you go back and you look at, John Keel's, volume of works. You look at Brad Steiger's stuff. You look at some of the more, obscure, reference materials like this with Hal Crawford and Hayden and Keith Hughes. You see that these folks were in on it. They actually were tracking with that maybe we shouldn't separate these different disciplines. Maybe they're all part of the same phenomena, and maybe the entities that I showed you, the photographs of. A paranormal person would look at that and say, well, those are ghosts, obviously. A cryptid person would say, oh, well, those are two Bigfoot, watching us. A ufologist would say, wow, I go to the CMS and I see a lot of UFO sightings, UAP sightings. Those are obviously EBEs or aliens. Maybe it's all and none.
Yeah.
It's just how you look at it.
Yep.
Right.
Human perception.
Yeah. Stan Gordon talked about that as well, the Sasquatch. So real quick, a couple of your investigators, good friends of mine, Kristen and Jessica, being out there in the field with them. And, like you said, we all get along. We enjoy each other's company. I was talking to them about, has there ever been any hitchhiker phenomenon? Do people bring things home with them from the ranch? Can you talk about that a little bit and what people have experienced?
Oh, absolutely. We, Kristen's had some interesting experiences. She's had, dreams, and things that have followed her. We had a really interesting experience with Kristen, where a image popped up on her phone, and it was a picture of, dare I say, a meadow, a field. And she emailed and said, hey, did anybody send this to my phone? Because, I have this image in the gallery, not a message, but actually in the gallery of my phone. And it's time-stamped when the phone was literally sitting 2 feet from my head while I was sleeping. What is this? So she sent me the photograph. I looked for any kind of metadata. I couldn't pull anything out of it. And so everybody started looking for this, what's this photograph? And it turns out it was a photograph from a piece of property on a Remax Realty site that was for sale in her, in her area, in the area where she lives. And, what does that mean? Was something trying to communicate with her that perhaps there would be an experience in this field, sometime in the future? Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a team together and, head out to the state where she lives and research it. So, we have hitchhikers. Jessica has had orbs, follow her home. Actually, luminescent, objects floating around her house. So obvious that she has a video of her son looking at one of these orbs while he was a toddler, saying "ball, ball." It was self-luminescent. Yeah. I've had a small LED flashlight that I had sitting on my desk, here in my office, that disappeared when I turned around. And I, thought I'd knocked it over, et cetera, et cetera. Couldn't find it. And lo and behold, the next morning when I got up and came downstairs, it was right where I left it. So you got a little bit of the trickster element there, which you go back into mythology and folklore, that's prevalent, all the way back in history is, some sort of trickster element to it, which, piggy-tailing on the, famous Skinwalker Ranch, the trickster element is alive and well there also.
Yes. Well, that kind of leads me to my question now is like the whole hitchhiker thing. Okay. So, and you bring up folklore, people have settled in America from all around the world, and they bring all this folklore with them of these magical beings and fairies and, all kinds of stuff. could it be possible that they literally have hitchhikers? Like what if people literally brought these things, across the ocean with them, not just, telling the tales of what they've seen, but what if there could literally be attachments that have been brought here from all around the world?
That's an excellent point. It's interesting that you have different cultures that describe, the same entities or beings, albeit in a little bit different term. The Native Americans, First Nation people talk about, these stone-coated giants, which were similar to Bigfoot. Here in this region, there's a story of an old crone who was a Native American witch called Spearfinger that would take children, in the middle of the night and eat their livers.
Yeah.
Go across the pond to Europe, into Eastern Europe, you have the tale of Baba Yaga, in her house on the chicken legs that would, take children and visitors, and travelers. And then you go into the folklore of Hansel and Gretel and the old lady in the woods. So I think that these are archetypes, and you can get in symbiotics and start talking about cultural archetypes. But I think that people are trying to describe these phenomena, as best they can, from their own cultural lenses, their own cultural optics. And I think it's universal. I think it's universal. I think these things exist. I think dimensions are like frequencies, that we're tuned into one particular frequency, but that doesn't mean there's not a signal adjacent to our frequency that we're just not aware of. And every once in a while, you get a little bit of bleed over, and that's what some of these experiences are.
Interesting.
Trey, let's change it up a little bit. How do you think about underwater exploration? You're a scuba diver. You like to get into the water. Have you ever studied anything that's a phenomenon of the oceans, the rivers, anything of that nature?
I haven't. I know, a lot of people talk about USOs. I think there's a very good, body of literature, experiences and data on that. Unfortunately, it's just not something I've really had time to dive into. But that in no way diminishes.
You think there could be another civilization under the ocean?
Here's my, my opinion on that is I am not going to discount anything. I am not one to discount a person's belief system or their experiences. That belongs to them. And a lot of people think that there could be other civilizations. Maybe they exist in just a slightly different dimension, and the way they manifest appears as though they live in the water. We talked about transmedium nature of UAPs. People are finally starting to talk about that. When they go into the water, as we saw with some of these amazing DoD films and footage. Are they really going into the water? Or are they winking in and out of this existence, as they go into the water? So as they shift into their dimension under the water, can they shift back into our dimension under the water, then come out and all of this? So I think when you start peeling back that onion, it can get very, very strange, and it's hard to really stick a pin into exactly what's happening.
Yeah. The other thing too that you mentioned about Bigfoot, I truly believe Bigfoot was an alien species that was implanted here. I mean, that's always been my theory. They've been seen around crafts. They've been seen next to graves. They've been seen next to, sightings and landings. And who's to say that a species didn't say, hey, let's take these guys over to planet Earth and see if they thrive there?
Oh, yeah. And absolutely. It's interesting is some of the cryptid researchers are starting to kind of look at things from that perspective now. For years, when I first started getting interested in this stuff, the prevailing theory was, Gigantopithecus. We have, fossil records of Gigantopithecus from China, basically a large hominid ape, several 10, 12 feet tall. And everybody was like, it's Gigantopithecus, and I was at a Bigfoot conference and I had some, very hardcore, flesh and blood kind of guys. But yet some friends of mine have FLIR video, thermal video of a two-legged bipedal entity running through the forest. It gets to a tree and it never comes out of the other side of the tree. Mm-hmm. I've talked to cryptid researchers that'll find a set of footprints that just start in a field, walk, and then disappear. And these are trackers. These are people that could follow a large 700-pound bipedal through the woods, but they're not able to track it.
Yeah.
So it makes you think that perhaps these things are multidimensional. Human beings are multidimensional creatures. That's how we can do remote viewing. So it stands to reason that a large hominid, a large primate, if that's what Bigfoot or Sasquatch is also a multidimensional creature.
And I wonder if they're coming in and out of a different dimension, if they can warp our time, if that can help explain some of that. We had a really good question in chat. One of our viewers, Kathleen, wants to know, did you ever come face to face with something?
Yeah, there's this one time at a fraternity party in college, and no, I'm kidding. It's I have actually been there. I've seen this phenomena. I've seen ghosts, if you will. I've seen these images and entities on FLIR. I've seen, as recently as last weekend, I was out with Matt Delph and Bob Wilson and some others. I saw orbs. Last weekend, I heard bipedal footsteps around our listening post observation post. So yeah, I've come in contact with this stuff. And I'm kind of at the point now, in my life where I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I don't, get freaked out about it, which sounds weird, but, it's just kind of, it's just another day at the office, in this business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the cool experiences that Jessica, I believe it was Matt, Jessica, and I went over again to the Field of Dreams, and I was seeing these lights in the tree.
Oh yeah.
And at first I thought maybe they're fireflies, but as we were watching and we're like, there were no other lights other than in that one place, and it was too cold for fireflies. And so we called the team, and you guys came with the FLIR and all that, in which we did catch it one time on there. But what was interesting actually the trees were quite higher. It's pitch dark out there. You can't see other than your little headlamp. So Kristen and I walked back the next day, and I was looking for anything reflective, nails on the trees, any pop cans, anything that would reflect light. But then I found, that evening, though, it was almost like a box of light opened up and went boom on itself. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about orbs or UFO sightings that have ever been spotted out there at the Meadows?
Oh, yeah. You mentioned boxes again. Strange.
Yeah,
strange. You should say that. Yeah. I mean, we've seen lots of orbs.
Yes.
I've seen, things that I thought were people with headlamps. And you throw your FLIR up and nothing's there. We've seen flashes of lights in the forest. We've seen, imagine if you would, somebody setting off a flash camera, at ground level, illuminating the whole forest. Yeah. But there's no light source there. We've seen, Chris and I have some pretty neat video of some UAPs just north of the meadow. We've heard disembodied voices. We've seen shadow figures, so pretty much the whole gambit of high strangeness is going on there. And I'm just, it's really cool being here because you've experienced some of that. You can actually say, I was there, I know what you're talking about. So it's, it's neat to have a little bit of validation.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important to go out with the team. What do you think, if it is ET visitation, what do they want in that area?
That's a good question. I'm going to do an analogy. Okay. Imagine a forest, and in this forest, the government or whomever decides to build a road. Just a 2-lane blacktop road through the middle of the forest. So boom, they build this road. Hasn't been there before. Pristine, virgin forest. And there's an anthill about 20 meters away from this. So the ants get up out of their anthill one day and they go scurrying along. They run across this road. They don't know what a road is. Mm-hmm. They have no conception of what a road is. So they sit there, and they send out their little ant pheromones trying to communicate it. And this thing doesn't talk back because it's so strange and out of their point of reference. They can't even conceptualize what a road is. Like the stories of when the Native Americans first saw ships from Europe. They didn't even have a way to conceptualize it. It's almost as though they couldn't see it because it didn't fit into their frame of reference. We're those ants. what these entities are doing most likely is so alien and so different in the sheer otherness of their activities. I don't even know if we can even begin to understand what they're doing, and we're just spectators, watching, somebody do something so amazing.
We're just here for the ride.
We're just here for the ride. We just, it's like the book, the Roadside Picnic, which talks about, an alien visitation, and we just can't, we can't conceive it. But it's awfully fun to watch, though.
I mean, how many times have we, as investigators, heard somebody's account of what happened, and they're like, well, here's where it gets really weird. What I saw reminded me of something I saw in a movie when I was a kid. And it's like, because what you saw is so alien, excuse the pun, to your brain and what you think should exist for your eyeballs and brain to comprehend, So I think, wasn't it Anne Strieber said the weirder it is, the more she believe the story.
Right.
There's, like you said, we're the ants. We can't even understand half the time what we're dealing with. Let's go back a second. What did the disembodied voices sound like? Could you make out actual words or?
I'll let Katie hit that out of the park. So her experience.
Daryl, right? Daryl and I were out there at the far, far end of the meadows, and we knew where all the other teams were. And I was actually looking on the ridge of this bank of trees, and Daryl sitting in a chair there. And all of a sudden we start hearing faint conversation, just chat. And I'm like, what? And so he's like, oh, I didn't know if you heard that. Yeah, I heard that. And so we radioed to the other teams, verified locations, but there was for sure conversations, and there was nobody in the vicinity, no wind. I mean, there was just very, very unusual. So chalk that up to something kind of strange. And I don't think that was the first time experience there. Talking to Jessica and Kristen, they've experienced that as well. And then being pushed like out in Field of Dreams. My son actually went out there with me the first time, and he's a big skeptic. And so he still kind of, tries to explain this away, but he had a hoodie on, was kind of getting cool. And it felt, and like when it happened, he like jumped and like, what the heck? But it was like somebody grabbed his hoodie and yanked it down off his head. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Trey, you mentioned shadow people. Mm-hmm. And I've always been fascinated with shadow people because I believe they're could be possible images of coming through from another dimension. People have different theories on it. Where did you see your shadow people? Was it outside, inside a house? I mean,
both.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've seen, when I was doing primarily paranormal investigations, I've seen them, inside of dwellings, inside of buildings. But also out here, in the meadow, in this environment, we have seen fleeting figures, just off in the distance, running or moving. Mm-hmm. And it's
but do you think they're shadow people?
Well, shadow, that's a term, that's a label. Are they shadows that are the size of people? Yes. They're shadows that are the size of people that we see, that are often faint enough that you just have to, and if you've ever done any patrolling or anything at night, you learn to adjust your vision, so you're picking up stuff with the rods of your eyes and not the cones, and you can perceive things a little bit different at dark. So you can't see these things straight on, but if you avert your gaze a little bit, you can see them moving. And we've had several experiences of these kind of figures jetting around the meadow and areas near it.
I literally had 2 family members in the last 24 hours talk to me separately about their shadow figure experiences. So that kind of just was like, synchronicity there. Both of them, though, felt, I almost always hear this with the kind of, again, you say shadow figure, it's kind of a generic term, but it is typically a pretty negative experience. They can kind of rush you, and it's not always a good vibe. So have you dealt with that? Do you have a thought on what that is? Or I mean, you just basically said maybe it's just what our eyes do, but I do wonder if there is a specific thing that we tend to refer to as shadow figure.
Usually, and Mike Rickensacker, I believe, wrote a book and has some lectures on shadow people. And a lot of times they're considered, as a negative entity.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on your point of view. Some people take a spiritual point of view. Are they demonic? Some people take a metaphysical point of view. Are they other beings trying to communicate with us? Perhaps they're benign, perhaps they're malevolent. And then you have the whole experience of hypnopompic dreaming or sleep paralysis, that involves, a shadow entity, oftentimes with some sort of glowing, eyes or something that just exudes extreme malevolence. So, I think, sometimes these perceptions start to overlap and get lumped into one label. But, my experiences in the shadow people that I've seen, hasn't necessarily been negative. It was just, more of a observing something and, thinking it was kind of interesting.
Okay.
Yep. I've experienced that as well. And you feel watched. And of course it's going to seem scary, and sometimes they do go over you. I mean, I've heard both scary and not. Let's talk about this weird stick that ended up strangely in your backpack in a weird way.
Yeah, that was we actually had found another field that was about 7 miles away from the meadow. So we thought we would explore that one evening. And unfortunately, you had to pack all of your gear and equipment to this place. You couldn't drive to it. So we spent, all day packing to this area, set up, didn't really have a whole lot go on while we were there. We did some sky watch, saw some satellites, and, went to bed. And that's where things started getting really weird is we actually camped on a fire break. And those of y'all that are familiar with a fire break, it's basically a very narrow track that's bulldozed through a forest. So a fire will stop right there and won't jump and continue to burn the forest. So we had one gentleman that was set up in a tent in the middle of the fire break, and the rest of us were set up in hammocks. And there was a beam of light that shot down the fire break, down this narrow pathway about 2 a.m., 0200 in the morning that did not correspond with anybody's, headlamps. It was horizontal, and which was really weird. So when we woke up the next day, we were talking about, the two guys that saw this beam of light. And one of our team members called us over to his pack and he goes, "Hey, guys, look at this. What do you make of this?" And if you notice, the hip belt of his pack is sitting on the ground, and that's where he set his pack that evening. And one side of the stick or limb is underneath the left side of the left hip belt, and the adjacent end or the other end of the stick goes over the right hip belt. And we looked for, could that have fallen out of a tree? When he set it down, did he, get hung up on a, dead sapling and, break it over? We could find nothing that corresponded with that. So we racked our brains trying to figure out exactly what happened, that would cause a stick to weave itself through his hip belt like that. And that's also, that weekend back at the meadow with the team there, that was when we had the strange track light, crop circle things in the meadow. And it was a very weird trip too. So, yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
What do you think about the, sorry, Chris, did you have a question?
No, go right ahead, Kate.
Just the whole, David Pilates 411 kind of theory that, these cryptids could be part of people going missing. Do you have thoughts on that?
Oh, not only do I have thoughts, I have an actual personal experience. Is as you walk into the meadow, there is an area where this trail comes through the forest and it meanders through, and then it opens up into the meadow. And there's a creek on your right, forest on your left, and the meadow in front of you. That is about 30 meters from where we saw the box or the cube, the portal kind of thing. It's also adjacent to where we saw this strange stick figure shaped like an ankh, or shaped like a galactic keyhole that was, was manifested there for some reason.
I think we have a picture of that.
Yeah.
While you're talking about that, Amanda, do we have that picture? Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that is that's actually in the middle of Katie talked about the river there. That's actually on a very small island. That was about 12 feet up in the air. The sapling is maybe about 1.5 inches in diameter. So it couldn't be bent over and tied up at the top. You couldn't climb up it because there's no firm ground. But it's that perfect oval shape like an ankh, or what some people call the galactic keyhole. Mm-hmm. So Kristen and I were out one weekend. It was a very, few people showed up that weekend, and we decided we were going to go out to the meadow and take baseline readings of all the areas where we've had anomalous situations. And we decided we were going to cross over that creek or river and look at the other side. So, we crossed over there. She and I were in radio contact with one another. And as we're working our way through the brush, it's real thick. I somehow ended up back to where we started, just on the near side of where that figure eventually showed up. And I got on the radio and I said, Kristen, you need to really check this out. I'm in another meadow. This is another field. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, no, this is amazing. And so she goes, don't move. I'm going to come to you. And she came over and she goes, Trey, you're back where we started. And I actually argued with her. And I have, years of experience in the woods. I've, hunted big game in Africa, backpacked all over North America. And I usually don't get discombobulated like that. But I was so confused, I did not know where I was. And it took me 10 minutes to reorient myself. And we also, right at that moment, had a spike of radiation of 0.33 microsieverts per hour above the background radiation of 0.06. And I started thinking about this. And is this what happens to people that David Paulides writes about when they go missing, that they become so disoriented that their reality changes for a very short moment? And if we hadn't had our safety protocols in place of always going out with a team member, having radio comms back with base camp, having a GPS map and compass with you, could I have ended up as one of the chapters in David Paulides' future books? Thankfully, we'll never know.
Yeah. Thankfully.
God, that's very scary.
Yeah.
That is incredibly scary. Hey, question for you. Mm-hmm. All this talk that you've done, and this is an amazing program that we're having right here. But have you ever thought of having either you or your team hypno-regress to see about abductions? Mm-hmm. I mean, have you worked on abductions? Because it sounds like some of your team members definitely had some missing time. Something had to happen.
Yeah. Actually, that's something I'm exploring right now, is hypnotic regression. I think, this is just a gut feeling. I don't have any evidence of this, but I think we're dealing with some screen memories. I've had some very strange experiences.
Have you seen any type of creatures like owls or deer or rabbits that are out of the norm?
Who? No, that's an owl.
That's
an owl.
Deer out of the norm. I mean, like, I'm talking about 6-foot rabbits, or you know what I mean? Because people have seen that as screen memories.
I will tell you an experience I had, and it was about maybe 200 meters from where Katie had the hood pulling incident. This was many years ago. I was backpacking with a friend of mine, and we had set up our camp adjacent to the part of the creek or river that runs through that area. And my backpacking buddy woke me up about 0200 hours, and he said, somebody's coming down the trail. And, we're like, okay, this is weird. It's literally in the middle of the night. So we, unzip the fly of the tent, we stick our heads out, and we see something. And it was so bizarre that when this something passed by, he said, tell me what you saw. Describe it. And I said, this is going to sound weird, but I saw a figure that looked like it had a light, a headlamp or something projecting a beam out of its head, wearing a dress, carrying a bundle in its arms. And he said, that's bizarre because I saw the same thing. And I said, that doesn't make any sense. And he goes, no, I don't think there's a woman out here at 2 a.m. in the middle of nowhere walking with her baby through the woods. That makes no sense. So, you go back and you look at screen memories, and, people will talk about they have these memories, but something's not quite right about them. They're off. They're just out of sync, out of kilter just a little bit. So, that's my personal experience. And quite frankly, I have a hunch that, my team has had other things go on, just behind the surface that we're not quite aware of yet.
Yeah. We only have like 7 minutes left of the show. This flew by like always. But have you ever had any encounters with like men in black or women in black?
Absolutely. Yeah. During our weird experience with the, with the cube or the box, we went back to campsite, and I had my base camp operator said, Trey, there's, somebody here to check you out. And, that wants to talk to you. So I came back and Katie can attest to this. This is literally in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it really is in the middle of nowhere. And we get back, and it's, it's February, it's cold, in the wintertime, in the mountains. And there's a businesswoman that drove up out of nowhere. And she's standing there, resplendent in her loafers, slacks, blouse, and blazer. And we were in the purpose or getting ready to do a video debrief of this amazing, portal or box experience. And this woman kept trying to inject herself into it. Oh, you need to come with me immediately. There's an area down this deserted road, where there's a barn with these things called monkey bears, and you got to, stop right now and come follow me. And my team members kept talking about something's off with this woman. It's not right. And so she started trying to interact with me, and she said, "Oh, where did you go to school?" And I said, "Well, I went to the University of West Georgia." And she goes, "Me too."
What?
Okay, that's weird. She goes, "Well, what's your degree in?" And I said, "Well, I have a BA in psychology." She goes, "Well, me too." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to trick you now. You're just parroting what I say." I said, "Who were some of your favorite professors while you were there?" And she started naming people I actually knew. So, statistically, what are the odds of a businesswoman in the forest in the wintertime wearing business attire in the middle of nowhere that went to the same university, has the same degree, and knows the same people I do?
Called an intelligent operator.
Yeah.
It's pretty remote. And, she was just off. Something was weird about this woman. And to make things even stranger is during the course of this whole interaction with my team, she moves about 20 meters, away from our base of operations, still within our lantern light, and she drops her trousers, disrobes, and urinates in front of us.
Oh my gosh! That's not what I thought you were going to say.
My kind of woman.
So you look at it.
You gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta go. So you read about entities interacting with people that have experienced high strangeness, that are improperly dressed, don't understand human cueing, don't understand human manners and niceties, and are trying to thwart what you're doing.
So weird. Yeah, she got plopped in this human body, and she's like, "Well, I got a full bladder. What do I do with this thing?"
And the weird thing is,
have to go number 2.
Yeah, well, So the thing is, it turns out she's a real person. We found out who she is, and through a intermediary, they interviewed her, and it turns out she remembers going there that night, and all she remembers is asking us to go down this road with her. She remembers we didn't want to talk to her. We were hiding something, and she got in her car and left. So this puts a weird twist on the whole Men in Black thing. Are they actual human beings, real people that are under the control of something else, and they have a memory that's different than what actually happened? Because I actually went back and got affidavits from my team, and it was as weird as we recalled.
Almost like a walk-in, like they're just used temporarily. We literally only have a few minutes left. Well, I've met a couple people that swear Bigfoot communicates with them.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've met them too. Do you have any thoughts on whether or not that could be possible? Do you think these people are believable?
Oh, well, hold on. He's telling me right now. Wait, he wants a calzone, a large milkshake. No, I have run into people like that. I'm not going to, dispute their claims. I've never had any communications with
I think there's a whole book about that called Psychic Sasquatch or Psychic Bigfoot or something like that.
Probably. Well, and I like your attitude. I mean, don't rule anything out. I think what makes a good investigator is, yes, you should always be sort of a skeptic first. That's how you kind of weed out, the junk. But if you're not open-minded to stuff, you really could miss something. And I mean, we have all seen unbelievable things that make no sense. Is it really such a stretch to think that one of these beings could communicate with us? Maybe that woman read your mind. Well, no, it turns out she was a real woman. I was gonna say maybe she got in your head and was like, "Who's your favorite professors?" But it turns out she was real. What's the chance
that woman wasn't a hybrid?
And the compatriot who actually is a psychoanalyst, as it turns out, that communicated with me from overseas, knows her, and he said that she always had she was almost like a sensor, or I'm not going to say psychic, that's probably too strong of a word, but somebody that was receptive, that was tuned into the right frequency, that she had a reputation of that at university. So that stands to reason.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, Trey, I know we only have a couple minutes here. Do you have any investigations coming up at the Meadows, or do you investigate any other places that you'll be going to frequently? I also wanted to mention for our listeners again to make sure you check out Trey's book, The Meadow Project, the South Skinwalker Ranch. It's an excellent book. And excellent photos and evidence in there. So please check that out. But yeah, do you have any investigations coming up, Trey?
Yeah, we've been actually looking at some stuff going on down in the legendary Troop Herd corridor down near LaGrange, Georgia. We've been messing around down there, and plan on going back out to the Meadow probably in the September, October timeframe. It's a much better investigation out there when it's a little colder. So yeah, we definitely plan on getting out there several times this winter. And, Katie, as it goes, and, the invitation's always open.
Awesome. I will be there.
Oh, it's so cool. This has been one of my favorite shows, and this 2 hours have just gone by in a snap. You have such wonderful stories. You're so easy to talk to. Thank you for sharing all that with us.
Yeah. Thank you, Trey, so much. Thank you so much for being here with us. Again, thank you for your service. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Bill Skywatcher. Thank you, Amanda Curran. And thank you to all our listeners. We really do appreciate it. Hopefully you all have a fantastic rest of your week, and we will see you back here next Tuesday night. Again, check out Trey's book, The Meadows Project, on Amazon, and we will see you all next week. Have a good one. Bye, guys. Bye, Katie. Bye, Trey. Bye, Chris. Bye.